Welcome to the Minnesota Vikings, welcome to the Viking Central podcast. I'm just thinking of the Minnesota Vikings because big night for the Vikings. Obviously, there was some uncertainty about what exactly was going to happen. Were they going to trade down? Were they going to trade up for a quarterback? Instead, it's kind of something no one really expected. They stayed at pick number 23, and they selected wide receiver Jordan Addison out of USC. It looks like they were maybe trying to work in for a trade down. It seems like those trade downs, they weren't getting crazy super value. It seemed like during the draft. So Kwesi probably just thought to himself, hey, why don't we just stay at 23, take a guy we really like? And that's wide receiver Jordan Addison. Going to pair him up with Justin Jefferson. What's your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great pick. I think the only reason it seems a little underwhelming is because we came into this night thinking of more crazy things to happen, and I also think that Will Levis still being on the board really makes a difference too, because I don't think anyone would expect Will Levis to still be on the board at 23. It does make me think that there is something that the public doesn't know about Will Levis. Like,
Sure.
I mean, unless his agent was just doing a really good job amping him up to the entire public, thinking he's going to be a top five pick, pretty much. I mean, everyone had him going to the Colts, so I think it seems a little underwhelming just because of Will Levis still on the board, and we didn't trade up or trade down. But I love the pick. I think it does a great job complementing the offense right now, and I think it gives the Vikings an option to really stretch the field. So.
Agreed. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, this was, I think, best case scenario of the night. Ultimately, I'm not gonna lie, for a second, Will Levis was a little intriguing, but again, I think when it comes to Kwesi, kind of like Brett, we talked earlier today, it has to be the right guy. If they're not 100% convinced that Levis is that guy, then they obviously made like the right decision to go with Jordan Addison. In today's NFL, I mean, you've seen it with Philadelphia, Kansas City, Cincinnati. I mean, you need weapons to just go out and just go toe to toe with some of these teams. Eagles got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. Say Minnesota might actually, match up with that right now with Hockenson,
Yeah, for sure.
JJ. Yes, because we saw what happened with JJ against the Eagles. He got locked down. There were a lot of games last season that JJ unfortunately got locked down in a lot of big time games. And Thielen, great as he was in the past, he just didn't have it anymore. And now you have Addison, who's a younger version, a guy that can really stretch the field. I've always compared, JJ. He's kind of like Devontae Adams, to me, where he's not going to be a huge deep threat like Tyreek Hill or some of these guys.
Sure.
He could stretch it here and there, but he's really a possession receiver. You need someone that could really stretch the field. Because if you remember last season, how many times did we see a lot of deep shots? It didn't seem like we saw enough. You know what I mean? And it's like the last true deep threat I feel like this team has had was like Aldrick Robinson.
Sure.
I mean, I'm trying to. I mean, KJ Osborne has showed some, flashes here and there, but I think when you make the decision to go with Addison over Levis, I think it shows that you do believe in Kirk, but you also believe in some of the quarterbacks in the middle rounds, or potentially, who knows? Maybe Trey Lance. A trade like that could be in the works, where we rather make a move for Trey than reach for a guy like Will Levis or Hendon Hooker. And who knows how far they slide tomorrow? Who knows if Kwesi and them maybe move up from 87 if they're available in, say, the late 40s to 50 range.
Yeah.
For a second, we thought they were going to trade to the first round tonight. So yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a really good, like, just safe pick. It gives the fans a little bit more. It keeps them at ease compared to last year with Lewis Cine. A lot of people thought they overthought the pick last year of Lewis Cine. This year, I felt like it was really good value of where you got Jordan Addison at, and it fills a need, and it was a need everyone kind of knew. And you know what? I gotta congratulate Kwesi. I mean, I feel like this was an A+ for what you wanted to accomplish the very first night.
Yeah, agreed. Getting another weapon on offense. I think I think even since last year, this is one of their top priorities. We were maybe thinking about it maybe at the trade deadline last year. Maybe they're going to try to add like a Jerry Judy or someone to pair with Justin Jefferson. They did go get TJ Hawkinson, which it opened up the field for Justin Jefferson better in the second half of the season, in my opinion. But to have a guy like Jordan Addison on the other side of the field, a guy the defense has to worry about, because defenses weren't scared of Adam Thielen last year. They just weren't. He was still a solid wide receiver, but they can play him one-on-one pretty easily and just cover him pretty easily at that age. And he had some nagging injuries and stuff like that.
For sure.
And Jordan Addison is one of the best route runners in the entire draft, if not the best. The dude is so polished. He can read defenses. He's just a match made in heaven in a Kevin O'Connell scheme, in my opinion. But I do think tomorrow might be a little interesting, depending how far. I think Levis is going to go pretty quick in the second round, but who knows? We thought he's probably going to be a top 5 pick, but yeah, it's interesting. I think either Will Levis, maybe even Hendon Hooker, if he starts falling towards the end of the second. I wouldn't mind Hendon Hooker in that area, to be honest with you, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's going to go pretty quick. And I think getting back to Jordan Addison, I think some of the fans out there, I think, are going to say, well, why don't we trust KJ Osborne as a wide receiver too? And I don't think it's that we don't trust him. I think it's just that Jordan Addison's more dynamic. I think we all think KJ Osborne is a little bit better than he actually is. I think he seems a lot better because he outperformed Thielen in some games last year, as Thielen was our wide receiver too, and he has been for a while now. And I think it's just like Thielen's aging, and he didn't show much explosiveness last year. And I think just when KJ Osborne would outperform him, or catch some of these deep passes, that it almost seems like, oh, he's a really good wide receiver too. I don't think he's a really good wide receiver too. I think he's just an overperforming wide receiver 3. I think he's still going to make an impact on the team. I think he's still going to play a pretty big role in it. I just think Jordan Addison gets it to a whole nother level of, now we got to worry about Jefferson, Hawkinson, and then if you try and cover those two, you got to cover Addison too. And I mean, Addison's more of a, he's a screen threat too. He's really good with screens, and kind of how Tom was saying, just Jefferson can't really stretch the field, nor we'll give him screens, but at the same time, that's not really his game. I mean, Addison can turn a little bubble screen into, big plays, 20+ yard plays, and Jefferson's capable of that, but I think that's more of Addison's game than Jefferson. So
yeah, I like it a lot. And especially, now you got, like you were saying, you got Justin Jefferson. He's going to sign an extension for sure, obviously. TJ Hawkinson, 99% sure he's going to sign an extension. Jordan Addison, 5-year deal right off his rookie contract. This is setting up beautifully if we're going to get our quarterback of the future at some point, because all these weapons are going to be here long term. And I can't wait to see who's, behind center in 2024, 2025. It's going to be interesting to see who it is, because it's, Kirk's going to be here in 2023, probably, like 95% sure, probably. But this offense is setting up beautifully for the quarterback of the future. And I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings, and even day 3, because, we could get a dynamic running back too to add to this offense sometime in the draft by the end of it as well, just to add more playmakers in the offense. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Jordan Addison in this offense. So
and I kind of agree with you guys. I mean, this ultimately is setting up for your quarterback of the future. I don't know if it's in this year's draft,
right,
with all the rumors of them potentially making a swing this year. It almost makes me wonder that if they're going to say they have a rough year, they have a first place schedule next year, say they win 6 games. If they were willing to trade potentially from 23 all the way to 3 and just mortgage everything, why not do that for Drake May next year? Why not do that for Caleb Williams, which I'm sure whoever has that pick, they're not moving that. But I'm just saying, someone like that, of like a Drake May, who would have been the QB1 in this year's draft. It's the offense is setting up for, you have your franchise left tackle, you have your franchise right tackle, You got a 25-year-old tight end in Hawkinson. You have a 23-year-old stud receiver in Jefferson. You have Jordan Addison now at wide receiver. Osborne's 25. Don't know what the running back situation is looking like, but you could plug and play those. I mean, this is setting up beautifully for you to insert a young quarterback, kind of just drive, the Lamborghini. Don't screw it up in a way, because it's
with an offensive-minded head coach too.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. The way that they're actually constructing this is absolutely just beautiful. It's lined up perfectly. It's very similar to, I feel like, I don't want to say like Kansas City Chiefs, but just like when Mahomes took over, it's like you had Travis Kelce in his prime there, about 28 years old, or 27-ish, where Hawkinson's a little close to that. You have Tyreek Hill, you had I think Sammy Watkins at the time, and guys like that. The running backs. I mean, so like they were in Andy Reid, offensive-minded play caller, where they're almost like mimicking that in a way. And I absolutely love just this Addison pick, because I feel like he also could just be a number one. This is T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Who knows? Maybe even Randy Moss, Chris Carter 2.0. We don't know. But, I just feel like with the value and everything, I think I had some questions about Kwesi in the front office because of last year's draft. Now I'm not so worried. The fact they stayed when almost everyone thought that they were trading the pick. I mean, if you would have had me go Vegas, I would have put I would have said, yeah, it's probably like minus 1,500 odds that they trade the pick. Like, it's just going to happen. But then when he's on the board and it just kind of happens, I mean, it's absolutely crazy of the value they got. And I would say the faith in them kind of just increased for me tonight. And I have a lot more faith of seeing what they did this offseason compared to like a year ago. Like, I was a little worried a year ago, but now I'm like, okay, these guys, they know what they're doing. They have a vision.
Yeah, and I'm not even ruling out last year's draft either. I think Lewis Cine was a freak injury, and I think Andrew Booth dealt with some injuries as well. So I think they can definitely, play this year if they stay healthy. I think they can play at a high level. And I also think this fits well. Kind of Brett and I kind of talked about this the other day, but it's more of the way the NFL is now. You kind of look at the Eagles, to where they built their entire roster for a Super Bowl. They didn't have the quarterback, and then they drafted Jalen Hurts, and they got the quarterback to lead them to a Super Bowl. Yes, they didn't win it, but I think just the way contracts work nowadays is that you want to build the rest of your roster ready for a Super Bowl, and then you make it so easy for the quarterback to lead them to a Super Bowl. It's what the Eagles are doing. It's what the 49ers are doing. And they played each other in the NFC Championship, and the 49ers are right there. It's you can give it to the Eagles. Yeah, they smoked them, but it was a fluke game because of Brock Purdy getting hurt. But literally right there, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, two plug-and-play guys that can play around a very good team. And if the Vikings, obviously, we're competing for a Super Bowl in 2023, but I think Brett and I both agree it almost feels like a punt to 2024 and to 2025, when they're really going to push and go all in on those years to really maximize this young roster that we're putting together, and just signing guys like Byron Murphy and Davenport, just very young guys. I think that they're going to be around for a while, and I think we're building for not just next year, but 2 to 3 years down the line. So I definitely think quarterback can come at a later time. I wouldn't have been upset if they drafted a quarterback for sure, but I'm definitely not upset with the Jordan Addison pick. So
yeah. And there's been some reports from like Alec Lewis is like one of the main Vikings beat reporters, and I think Ben Gessling had this too. Like, Will Levis wasn't even like an option for them at 23, which is like very interesting. Like, it wasn't even a thought. Like,
really,
I wonder what the issue is, but
yeah. So then, did they say today like it wasn't even a thought, they didn't even consider it, or because it almost feels like they wouldn't even consider it because maybe they just didn't even think he was going to be there at 23. That might be a part of it. But I mean, also today, there's got to be something that the public doesn't know about Will Levis. It kind of feels like a Malik Willis thing, but I feel like Malik Willis had less hype coming around him, and it was more late coming on. I mean, Will Levis has been like a known first round pick for almost going into this past season. It almost felt like he could be a first round pick, and he kind of backed it up, and people are comparing him to Wyoming Josh Allen. Like, like you said, Tom brought up the betting odds. I couldn't even tell you what the betting odds were for him to not go in the first round. I mean,
It was something crazy.
Yeah, you could have made a lot of money to bet on him not going in the first round, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that I thought I saw on Twitter, like someone said like the Vikings, I think it was Gessling, who had said like the Vikings didn't have like a first round grade on him or something like that. But like I just heard from the side though for a few days that I heard his like personality has like rubbed teams the wrong way, and he didn't like interview very well, and he came across as like very arrogant. That kind of drew teams away.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm like maybe that could be one of the reasons because when it comes to quarterbacks, they look for guys that are culture setters. It seems like I was surprised Hooker didn't go in the first though. Levis, I thought could slip a little bit. I'm not sure where he'll go tomorrow. I mean, I've heard some people think he could go to Detroit.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, Detroit.
I can see Tennessee maybe making a move too because they have like.
I like Seattle. I like Seattle a lot actually.
Yeah,
Seattle. That seems like a Seattle pick where guys just seem to fall to them.
Well, so I was hoping for Levis tonight, and the 4 picks before us, I think it was Tampa Bay, Seattle, Detroit, and those are the teams that I was worried about taking Will Levis because I definitely thought one of them was going to, just because of their needs, and I think they would give an opportunity for Levis to sit behind a quarterback for a year if he did so. So, yeah, I feel like he would go pretty early tomorrow. I'm not sure. I mean, the line for quarterbacks in the first round was 4.5, and it was like minus minus 130 or something. So I mean, and it didn't even get the 4, which was crazy.
Right. Yeah, that is wild to be honest with you. Yeah, I can't believe that happened. Like Will Levis, I love how all of a sudden all these smoke, you could tell what was smoke screens like before the season or before the draft. Like a couple of days ago, like everyone was saying Indianapolis is in love with Will Levis. There's like no chance Indy's not going to take Will Levis, and they obviously go for Anthony Richardson, which I think was the right pick for the Colts. I was hoping, Stroud was going to start falling or someone was going to start falling, but the top 3 guys went when they should have. And that I think that's why, the Vikings didn't reach for a guy because those are the guys that they're hoping were going to fall. If CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson fall towards the teens outside the top 10, I could have saw Kwesi maybe, trading up for one of those guys. But yeah, it's interesting. They didn't even have a first round grade on Will Levis. But other than quarterback, the second round right away is going to have a ton of talent. I wish we had a second round pick, and obviously we got TJ Hawkinson out of it, so I'm not too upset about it. But Brian Branch, Joey Porter Jr., Will Levis, there's a handful of guys that are first round guys that are going to that have fallen into the second round. It's just crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I think this draft was really. It wasn't almost top heavy, but it felt like the first 10 picks really separated themselves from the rest. And then I feel like the next, almost 50 picks are kind of just, what do you need? Obviously, there's some guys that are better than others, but I feel like if you were to pick a guy at 20 that maybe could have gone at 40, I feel like no one's really going to bat an eye at it. It's like there was guys coming off pretty early in the draft. Like, the Packers picking Lucas Van Ness. I saw some mock drafts of the Vikings getting him, 10 picks later. So I feel like some teams they weren't really reaching, but they were just going after guys that they wanted. So
yeah, that Jahmyr Gibbs pick really caught me off guard at 12.
Yeah, that's really questionable. I don't know why you go out and make it a priority to get Montgomery, and then you get Gibbs. It's going to be a 3-headed monster for sure, and I think obviously Gibbs and Swift can play other positions than running back, but that's how do you split those carries? If you're running the ball,
I don't think Swift's getting traded, right? That just seems like the most logical move next.
Yeah, I think so.
Seeing Swift get traded to like Philadelphia, maybe the Chargers if they cut Mixon post June 1st. The Chargers, if they decide to move Eckler, don't want to pay him.
Yep. I just don't understand drafting running backs in the first round. In today's game, I don't get it. You look at the Chiefs, and I don't like mentioning the Chiefs because they have Mahomes, and it's such a different team than everyone else, but it's like, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. I mean, it's literally just plug and play. You even look at the Eagles. I mean, they had Miles Sanders isn't bad, but it's like you put anyone behind that old line, they're going to succeed. I don't understand drafting a running back in the first round when in 3 to 4 years when they're due for a contract, it's not even guaranteed that they're healthy. I mean, they could have gotten hurt the last 2 years. They could have blown their ACL or blown their Achilles or whatever it is. Obviously, hopefully not doesn't happen with any of the first round picks tonight, but I mean that's just the way running backs are nowadays. It's just plug and play with all of them. So I don't know. It's questionable to me, and it's a real head scratcher. Even with the Falcons too. I mean, Tyler Algier rushed for 1,000 yards last year. I mean, Bijan Robinson is a very good prospect, probably the best in Saquon, but it still doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's not going to move the needle as much as some other guys would have for that team, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest head scratcher for me, honestly, in the first round. And then our division was a little weird. Like you said, Luke Van Ness. I didn't expect that pick. There was talk, they're going to go get Jackson Smith and Najigba. That's why that pick swap with the Jets, so they could, jump New England and all this kind of stuff. And then the Bears didn't take Jalen Carter. Like he was sitting there for you at number 9. They trade down one spot and they go get a tackle. I think it was Darnell Wright who would.
Yep.
I don't think he's a top 10 pick in my opinion, but
I was pretty scared. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. When the thought of Jalen Carter potentially being a Bear frightened me a little bit. I mean, I know Darnell Wright was. I mean, I don't know. It kind of seemed like a reach to me. That seemed like a guy that would have been available at like 17. So why not just trade with Pittsburgh?
Right. And was Skoronski still on the board too?
Yeah.
So
next pick.
I mean, I feel like he was the best tackle in the draft, and I feel like he was the safest pick. So I would have gone with that. But I mean, I don't know. Georgia guys are.
I think teams got at least the Bears maybe. I think they kind of got a little scared about his arms. They're a little short, and no one knows if he's like a guard or like a tackle.
Right.
That's the only logical thing that I could kind of think of. I would suggest. But and then another one is Braxton Jones they took last year in the 5th round. That's their starting left tackle, and Darnell Wright's a pure right tackle. So they probably just figure, you know what, let's just find our right tackle and solidify it. But either way, you don't pass on Jalen Carter and let him go to the Eagles of all teams.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think and I think the Bears. I mean, they got an O-lineman which they needed, but when Jalen Carter's there, I mean, the Bears literally need O-line and D-line really bad. And I think if Jalen Carter's there, you got to take him. I mean, he was people are saying he's the best player in the draft. I mean, when he falls to you after you traded the first overall pick, I mean, you got it. Yeah, I feel like you got to take him. I mean, you traded the first overall pick to move back 8 spots, and you got a guy that you honestly could have took with the first overall pick, and nobody would have said anything about it. It's like, I mean, he was honestly one of the best players in the draft. So, if not the best.
Agreed. And how about that Eagles draft? They get handed Jalen Carter, and then they go get Nolan Smith at pick number 30.
Yep.
2 Georgia Bulldogs.
Another weird dropping in the draft too. Nolan Smith. I mean, he could have been. I thought he was right up there with Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson. I mean, I think Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson maybe would have been just a little tier above him, but I think Nolan Smith was right there. I mean, any D lineman running a 4.3 something is insane. So, yeah, another weird draft. But when they picked Nolan Smith, I was like, wow, they knocked it out the park with that one.
I did a mock this morning, and I had Nolan Smith at like 10 to the Eagles.
Yeah,
literally. Like, you get 2 of the guys who were in like my top 10.
Yeah, if he would have went ahead of Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, I don't think people really would have been. Yeah, people would have been. Yeah, that's a good pick. Houston, and I know it's out of division, it's AFC, but Houston picking at 2 and 3 is crazy. That was a huge shocker to me.
Easy too. Like it seems so easy. It's crazy is Daniel Jeremiah had that in his mock yesterday.
Did he really?
Yeah, I did see that.
Damn.
Yeah, number 1. Yeah, he released his mock. He actually had Minnesota going JSN at 23, but he actually has Jordan Addison as his number 1 wide receiver the entire draft. So for anyone who's
Like that.
listening who really likes Daniel Jeremiah, he's a big believer in Addison. But yeah, he had number 1 Bryce Young, number 2 he had C.J. Stroud. He said it's hard to imagine they come away without a quarterback. And then 3 he had them trading with Arizona. I was like, whew, okay.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that. I mean, the more that you think about it, it's like you really don't want to trade your future for a guy like Anthony Richardson, just because. I mean, he could be a guy you want to trade your future for, but he could also be like, I mean, it could be the Rudy Gobert trade all over again. Like, just
I don't even hate the Rudy trade.
What?
I don't hate the Rudy trade. I know
I hate it.
I know this is Vikings.
I hate it.
Man.
Yeah, it's a whole other topic to get on.
Yeah, I just think it was way too risky to trade up I mean, I don't even know what the compensation would have been, but it would have been a major risk for taking a guy like Anthony Richardson, who could be the best player in the draft or could be, one of the worst picks in the first round. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm wondering if they're just waiting. I mean, if a quarterback's available, I think they may be willing to take a guy in this year's draft yet. But I'm wondering if they're maybe trying to fill out the roster a little bit more for the young quarterback. I mean, we still need a defense. I mean, our offense is pretty set. The offensive line still scares me. But I'm wondering if they're just trying to fill out that roster a little bit more and then maybe mortgage, like we were talking about earlier. And like Tom was talking, maybe Drake May, Caleb Williams. And I know if who's ever at number 1 is probably going to go Caleb Williams. That's just the way it is. Right. Unless someone just has a terrible year with already a franchise quarterback, which I don't see happening. But if the situation kind of – go ahead. Yeah, it could be. That is true. I think
they have one of the worst rosters in the NFL right now, but
miserable.
They have their franchise quarterback. So, well, who they think is their franchise quarterback. They paid him like it is. So, I mean,
exactly.
It could be them, but I hope the Vikings aren't picking top 10, but who knows?
Who really knows? Yeah. It's going to be a weak division, but we do have a first place schedule like we were talking about.
Right.
So it could really go either way. If Kirk's our quarterback, we're winning at least 8 games.
That's for sure.
That's just the truth to it.
Yeah, but very many injuries. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I just saw this, and we were talking about how Devontae Swift's probably going to get traded. I just got a quote here from Bleacher Report. So Lions GM Brad Holmes on running back DeAndre Swift. Yeah, I mean, DeAndre, he's still on our roster. He's still part of our team. He's still under contract with us. So, the Gibbs pick hasn't really changed anything yet, but, it is early.
So, yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
So, I think as soon as they made that pick, people called him. And they're like, what's up? Why? Yeah. Is he, what's the asking price for him? But, I mean, speaking of running backs, if you guys had to put a percentage on it, what do you think the percentage of Delvin going tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'd say 40% that he's gone tomorrow. 40%.
I think it's low. I really do. Yeah. I think they're waiting till post June 1st.
I can see that too.
No, because I think they free up $5 extra mil. I think if they wait. Yeah. I think it was Thor Nystrom who was on Score North. He said he heard that there's already been a parameters of a deal in place.
Okay.
But it's for
with Miami?
With an AFC team, he said. So it's pretty much Miami.
Yeah.
But it's for post June 1st. I don't know his sources or anything like that. But I mean, I think ideally they would love to trade tomorrow. But I could also see them trading for a Noah Igabanio. I don't know how to say his name. A corner who Flores used to work with over there, who was a former first-round pick, and then get a
dude from Auburn.
Yeah, where I could see him trade for a player in a 6th-round pick. Where I think if they dealt him this weekend, I think they'd want a third. I think they'd want 84. I think that's the problem right now. Is I think they want 84 and maybe a late-round pick for Cook right now, and Miami's not willing to do that.
Right. Yeah. I think it also depends on how the draft goes. I mean, that thing could be in line, but maybe someone falls and they want to trade up to get them. And, they're sorry, Miami, nothing's written in stone, and someone really wants Delvin and we can move up and we want to do that. So I think that's definitely a possibility, but I think you're right, Tom. I think after a post June 1st, something happening with Delvin is definitely more realistic than anything happening tomorrow or Saturday. So
Yeah, and it's gonna be really telling if they do select a running. If they don't do anything on Delvin through the weekend, but they select a running back, that's just writing on the wall
For
that
sure.
Delvin's gone. But
I want to know what they. I'm curious. Like, what do they do if they don't draft a running back though, or they take like a Mo Ibrahim hypothetically on like day 6? I mean, I'm just gonna recklessly speculate here. I mean, we've done business with Detroit. Let's just go get DeAndre Swift, team him up with Madison.
Yeah.
Call it a day. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Minnesota's going to do at running back because I don't think there's any positions out there. I mean, they have to take one? I would assume in round 3 or 4.
I would imagine they would take one. They're pretty late, low risk, and then I think, you ride it out with Madison and Ty Chandler, maybe, speed back, and maybe you put Ngwagu back there too. Eventually, some passing down. So. Yeah, I mean, the running back is just plug and play at this point, and I think the addition of Jordan Addison really kind of takes the weight off of that the running game as well. I mean, you can just be the Chiefs. Just you don't have Mahomes, but just pass the ball. I mean, it's like they know you're going to pass, but you can't stop it if we have Hawkinson, Jefferson, and Addison running around out there. So.
Yeah, we talked to Cook. Do you see anything with Za'Darius or maybe even Danielle Hunter? I know the Danielle Hunter contract's kind of iffy too. If he's traded, I think we're on the hook for like 19 million. But then it is all cleared after this year. And we've been talking about how they're gearing up for 2024, 2025. The books would be cleared from Danielle after this year, but you would have to eat a lot of money if you were to trade Danielle this offseason.
Yeah, I'm not – I think they really want to keep Za'Darius. I mean, Za'Darius came out and said he wanted a trade, but the Vikings weren't having any of that. So I think they'll do anything in their power to keep him around. Daniil's questionable. I mean, he's great when he plays. His availability is sometimes questionable. And I think, honestly, he has his good games, but he also has his games where he's just a total non-factor. And I felt like that was more often than not last year. But I mean, he's a really good pass rusher. I just, like you said, I mean, we got to eat a lot of money if we trade him. So I think, maybe keep him around. Why not? See what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe he balls out and does really good. And if not, then, like you said, books are clean for him. So I mean, just move on.
I don't know. I just have a hard time. I feel like Quase is going to try to do something. I have a hard time with all the talent that's on the board. He's going to sit around and wait 56 picks until his next pick.
Exactly.
I don't know.
What if he packaged like Za'Darius in like 87 and moved up into like the 40s or 50s? I could totally see something like that. He always seemed to get like creative last year. It was never just like a 1 for like 3 thing. It was always like, we'll send you this, and that, and you'll send us this, and that. Like it was always so creative the way he structured it. So I'm very curious to see like what the plan is for sure.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see something. I definitely think he wants to move up. I think he's going to be bored, to be honest. I think he's just going to be sitting in the draft room and just be like, I need to do something. Like I want guys on the board, and I'm not going to wait 50 picks for them to come to me. So I think he'll definitely try and make something happen.
Sure. And then if we do stay at 87, what position do you think they're going to go? You think they're probably going to go secondary? Yeah.
I think secondary. I think secondary or linebacker too. I think we need to get a little deeper.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, losing Kendrick sucks. But I mean, his production was down. But I just think getting deeper and maybe trying to get a real playmaker who could be on the team for a couple of years at linebacker. Yeah. So.
Agreed. Who did you say you like, Tom?
I think it was Julian Brents, the corner from Kansas State. Obviously, DJ Turner, like Tyler talked about earlier today. Would definitely love, just a corner. But I also don't want to rule out linebacker either. I could definitely see them going like, I'm trying to think, Noah Sewell, Ivan Pace from Cincinnati, one of those guys. I could see him going after late.
Yeah. I think Toa, guy from Alabama, I think he could go later in the draft too.
I like him a lot. I don't know. If I had to say now, though, I think they might trade back from 87, actually.
That's a
acquire a little
possibility
more.
too.
I can see them trading from like 87 into the mid 90s, 95
Yeah.
area, or maybe San Francisco at 99.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of picks. I mean, what do they have? 4 left?
Yeah,
4
they got
left,
a
yeah.
3, 4, 5, and 6, no 7.
Yeah, just 4 left right now. It's like, yeah, I think it's different than Spielman. Spielman would have his 6th round picks lined up and ready to go, and he'd have half the 6th round on the team. So
Yeah.
it's
Not
a
lying.
lot different,
Not
but
lying.
yeah.
2 guys that probably won't be there that I really like. Dayon Henley out of Washington State is an animal linebacker.
Yeah.
And then to get that slot corner locked down for the foreseeable future, I love Clark Phillips out of Utah. Absolutely love him, but I think those would have to be trade up guys, and I just don't see them doing that for a linebacker or a cornerback for that matter of fact, because we'd only have 4 picks left.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting.
I'd say D lineman. I don't know.
That too.
I think there's like the guy from Baylor. I like him. The guy from USC. I gotta remember the first in my head, but yeah. I mean, I'm still like we talked about earlier, Brett. I mean, I'm very concerned still about this defensive line right now.
Same.
Outside of Harrison Phillips, I mean, there's just not a lot there unless they're going to get creative and maybe move Davenport inside potentially and have Z on the outside if he sticks around, or maybe move Darius on the inside that he's older now.
Sure. I don't know. I'd like to see what they would do with Patrick Jones too. It's his 3rd year. I think he's a versatile guy that can play on the edge and inside. So I think they could get a little bit creative with it, especially since Ed Donatell's not here anymore. Brian Flores is gonna get the best out of these guys, and that's gonna be fun to see. But we need to get some meat in the interior. Agree, definitely.
For sure.
So, any last tidbits, guys? Don't need to keep you on here too long. So,
I think I'm good. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Heck yeah. I think tomorrow 6 o'clock start for the draft Central Time.
Yeah.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect. Good deal. All right. Well, maybe we'll hop on again tomorrow sometime. All right, guys.
Yep.
For sure.
Good
Thank
deal.
you.
Yep.
Have a good one.
You guys too.